welcome back to my Sims 4 rotational drama series, where I am gossiping with you all about the insane tea currently happening in my Oasis Springs save. If this is your first time joining us, welcome! I am playing Sims rotationally, which means I'm spending a bit of time in one household before jumping to another, letting me build these complicated weaving storylines and relationships between a whole lot of different Sims, leading to a lot of drama. Last episode, we witnessed the downfall of Jay Huntington III as he started crashing out about securing his legacy and thus lost both of his romantic partners and lost custody of literally all of his kids. He's got a lot of kids. But he very quickly moved on by scooping up his ex-boyfriend and first love, Mitchell Kalani, and getting married and having a kid together very, very quickly. But since we spent all 3 weeks dealing with that mess last time, our first episode of the new year is gonna be a bit more laid back. Or at least, it was meant to be. We all know that my intentions are never quite brought to fruition when it comes to this silly, silly game. For week 1, we are beginning with Jeffrey Austere. Previously known as Jeffrey Landgraab, Jeffrey is family-oriented, good, outgoing, and his lifetime aspiration is to have a successful lineage. He has recently divorced from Nancy Landgraab after she left him for a younger man, so he's now living in a pretty swish apartment all on his lonesome and is working in the doctor career. Jeffrey has 3 kids. Johnny, who was kicked out of the family for wanting to be a comedian, Malcolm, who is literally evil, and Daniela, who is our only non-canonical Landgraab child as she was born thanks to neighborhood stories rather than being there when we started the save. Jeffrey is friends with Zoe, Craig, and Zayden. My plans for this week with Jeffrey were to have him repair his relationship with Johnny, strengthen his relationship with his other children, and make some more friends in his community. He's spent a lot of time being part of the infamous Landgraab family, married to a woman who is literally at the top of the criminal career. And I think Jeffrey is relishing in the opportunity to finally embrace his good trait. However, my humble aspirations for the week were literally immediately thrown for a loop when I looked through Jeffrey's relationship panel and found that he had another son. Literally just a completely random teen, not related to anyone else, not even showing as being related to Jeffrey on the in-game family tree, but for some reason showing up in Jeffrey's relationship panel as his son. So this was obviously a bug. But if you're a fan of this series, then you know that I love to embrace all of the chaos and make the bugs work in my favor. So I decided to run with this. I popped into Create a Sim and gave this teen a bit of a makeover, as well as creating a brand new sim to be his mother. That's now, I think, the 4th original sim in this save, I think. And I moved them into the apartment downstairs from Jeffrey. So let me tell you the tale of how Jeffrey ended up with another secret child. It's pretty widely accepted in Sims canon that Jeffrey and Nancy probably don't have the best relationship. I mean, we've already established Nancy is literally a criminal, like a mob boss level criminal, whilst Jeffrey is out here being good and family oriented. This is definitely a marriage based around status and keeping up appearances. So I reckon at some point after Johnny and Malcolm had been born, but before Daniela was born, so probably right around the time that the save file started, Nancy and Jeffrey were on a break. This is important because unlike Nancy, I don't think Jeffrey would ever be unfaithful in their relationship. So they were on a break and Jeffrey decided to travel the world a little bit, get some time away from the Landgraab empire in Oasis Springs. He ends up in Tartosa, where he meets Carmen Covington. The two of them hit it off and have a bit of a whirlwind romance, but ultimately Jeffrey wants to try and patch things up with Nancy because he thinks it's what'll be best for the family. He's a family man, we've established this. So he returns to Oasis Springs. But ruh-roh, turns out Carmen's pregnant, and she does try to get in touch with Jeffrey to tell him this, but who gets to her first? Nancy. Nancy is very concerned with how this would look. She has a reputation to uphold, and it's been hard enough trying to hide the whole Johnny Zest is actually their son thing. So Nancy pays Carmen to stay quiet and not tell Jeffrey about the baby. So even though Carmen thinks this is like despicable, again, Nancy is a literal mob boss. But now, Nancy and Jeffrey have had a very public divorce, so Carmen moves to Oasis Springs with the sole purpose of reuniting her family and finally introducing Jeffrey to his son, Yahir Covington. Isn't that juicy? Isn't it just like magical what you can do when you decide to embrace the random curveballs that this game throws at you? Man, I have so much fun with this game. So, anyway, yes, Carmen and Yahir Covington have just moved to Oasis Springs. Not even intending to end up in the literal same building as Jeffrey, but sometimes fate just finds a way. Fate in this situation being me, obviously. So, one morning, Jeffrey is downstairs getting his mail and chatting with a couple of his new neighbors, when look who comes downstairs. One of my favorite things about having Sims living in residential rentals is how many opportunities you get for random interactions like this. The only Sim that I told to come outside at this specific moment was Jeffrey. The fact that Parker and Peyton were out there and then that Carmen came downstairs, it was all just completely random chance. Jeffrey is thrilled to see Carmen, if a little bit confused, and the two of them get to chatting and catching up. They actually end up heading to the diner next door to have breakfast together, and there's even a little bit of flirting. Cutie patooties. But Carmen doesn't bring up Yahir just yet. Later that day, Jeffrey decides to visit Johnny to see if he can start patching up that relationship, and it goes super well. Things are a bit awkward at first, but they end up getting along really, really well, and they get their relationship bar firmly in the green. Then, that evening, Carmen knocks on Jeffrey's door and he invites her in for a drink. They chat, they cuddle, they smooch. It's all very nice. And then, a few days later, Jeffrey decides to go knock on Carmen's door to see if she wants to join him for breakfast. But it isn't Carmen that answers the door. It's Yahir. The secret is out. There wasn't really any way in the game for me to make this a super dramatic moment because the game already sort of registered Jeffrey and Yahir as knowing each other. Like, that's how we got into this whole mess in the first place, you know? But again, the fun part is making a dramatic scene out of a very ordinary situation. So with a complete lack of any negative moodlets to sway the conversation, I think Jeffrey is thrilled by this revelation. He's got the family-oriented trait, as we've established. Family is like his main motivation in life at the moment. So he decides that this calls for a big family dinner with Carmen and Yahir, Malcolm and Daniela, and of course, Johnny Zest. But before the dinner party, Jeffrey goes to confront Nancy. They get into a physical altercation, which Jeffrey does not win, but like, he still went and told her off, which is sort of more than I imagine he ever did during their actual marriage. Again, you don't want to mess with a mob boss. Anyway, dinner party time. It goes really well. Everyone is chatting and getting along great, and it was honestly just super wholesome and like a really cute family moment. After the party, Malcolm asks if he can move in with Jeffrey. This was crazy to me because Malcolm is the heir to the Landgraab legacy. He has been raised to follow in Nancy's footsteps, like even going as far as to literally have the evil trait perfectly setting him up for joining the criminal career down the line. But if you recall from a couple of episodes ago, we've established that Nancy really wants an heir who is also a spellcaster like she is. And Malcolm is not, and neither is Daniela, so Nancy got remarried to Don Lothario in the hopes of her new husband giving her a spellcaster baby, meaning Malcolm is sort of losing his seat at the table. So clearly this situation has escalated enough behind the scenes where Malcolm has just had enough and wants to move in with Jeffrey instead. Malcolm is a young adult now. I don't know if that's been mentioned yet. He's only just aged up pretty recently. And he's had a pretty cushy life thus far, growing up in the Landgraab mansion. So I see this as him realizing he might need to make his own way in the world, since he's not exactly the favorite anymore. So if he moves in with Jeffrey, he can learn how to be independent while still having the support of Jeffrey there if he needs it. It's actually kind of sweet, if you think about it. However, as could probably be expected, Malcolm and Jeffrey do already have the difficult relationship dynamic. Their relationship itself is fine, like they're still listed as being good friends, but like Jeffrey has the good trait and Malcolm has the evil trait, so there's bound to be a little bit of conflict. Anyway, Malcolm moves into the apartment with Jeffrey, and he also applies for university, and he strikes up a bit of a flirtation with downstairs neighbor Peyton. Exciting stuff. Back to Jeffrey now. He and Carmen go on a fancy dinner date and decide to make their relationship official. They got the wholesome relationship dynamic, and then immediately, like no joke, the pop-ups were like a second apart, developed the steamy relationship dynamic. So I guess things are going well for them. They also become best friends, which I thought was really cute. And that's the end of week 1 done. For week 2, we are hanging out with Gavin and Zoe. Both previously part of the infamous Roomies household, these two have stuck together ever since that whole situation blew up. And they've both recently aged up from young adults to proper adults. I'm very emotional about how everyone is growing up. Zoe Patel is a goofball, a perfectionist, cheerful, active, and romantic, and is working on the Friend of the World aspiration. She's friends with Raylan, Judd, Mitchell, Jay, Paige, Babs, Gavin, Craig, and Jeffrey. She's enemies with Peyton and Aria, and she's exes with Dusty and Don. Gavin Richards is neat, a bro, creative, and jealous, and he has the best-selling author aspiration. He's friends with Babs, Jay, Mitchell, Johnny, Brendan, Paige, Zoe, and Louise, and for some reason he dislikes Dusty. They live in a nice but pretty small apartment, Zoe working as a romance consultant and Gavin working as a journalist. Last we saw this household, Zoe was going through her rebound era post-relationship with Dusty. She made a bunch of big life changes, including starting a relationship with Don Lothario. And our week with Zoe ended with her and Gavin seemingly beefing. My theory is that Gavin has always secretly had feelings for Zoe, and seeing her get with Don Lothario, the most renowned ladies' man in all of Oasis Springs, just really rubbed him the wrong way. And I don't know, maybe he thought he'd missed his chance and so he was taking that out on her, which is a dick move. But now Zoe and Gavin's relationship is perfectly fine, and I don't think it's a coincidence that they've stopped arguing now that Zoe is no longer with Don. I think that it's finally time we give these two their moment. We're sending them out on a date, taking the step out of the friend zone, exploring that chemistry that has been there since episode 1. I think I even mentioned in episode 1 that they kind of had a bit of a thing for each other, and it hasn't been addressed until now. The date is fine. It's just fine. It's nothing super romantic or mind-blowing, but I mean, are fireworks and butterflies what you expect when you've been friends as long as they have? I think after everything Zoe in particular has been through, she would be looking for someone who's more stable and loyal. So after the date, it's just sort of business as usual. Perhaps a bit strange, coexisting in an apartment after you've just gone on your first date. It's sort of the wrong order of doing things. Zoe goes to her yoga club and she ends up getting into a fight with Nancy Landgraab, seeing as, you know, Don Lothario cheated on Zoe and then later that week was married to Nancy Landgraab. I feel like Zoe's quite justified for this. Later that night, Zoe and Gavin were having just a normal night in their apartment, watching a movie together, as they do pretty much every night. But then they get a little bit cuddly on the couch, and then they have their first kiss. And guys, they really like each other. Like, Genuinely. They go out for another date the next day and decide to make things official. It's very, very cute. And then they get the steamy relationship dynamic, which, I mean, I guess that's sort of to be expected when you've got years of built up tension and longing. So, a bit later in the week, Gavin gets a call from Babs. We know Babs. We love Babs. Babs is ringing her good friend Gavin to tell him that she thinks Dusty is gonna propose to her. I literally screamed when I saw this. I was so excited. I was planning on this happening eventually anyway, like, spoiler alert. So I said absolutely Babs should say yes to this. But I think this would have inspired Gavin. Because even though Zoe has said, you know, that she doesn't care about the butterflies and the fireworks and the sweeping romance, because she just wants to be practical and settle down with somebody she truly loves, she does still have the romantic trait. That's like a very big part of who she is as a person. And Gavin wants to give her that romance. So, whilst Zoe is upstairs working out, I created the world's biggest fire hazard in their apartment. In the name of love, of course. Zoe comes downstairs and sees this, their whole apartment filled with candles and Gavin standing there in the center of it all. And then the two of them immediately leave the room and go chat in the hallway, completely snubbing all of my very hard work. I had to buy all of those candles individually. So instead of a beautiful candlelit romantic proposal, I got a apartment complex hallway proposal. But it's a proposal nonetheless. Zoe and Gavin are getting married. If it seems like I'm really rushing their whole love story here, I am. I'll admit that. But I feel like these two have spent so long on the sidelines, not getting their happy ending. I want to give them all of the love that they deserve in the short amount of time that we have with them. And also, this is Sims. If you're not getting married the same week as your first date, like, what are you even doing? So, I was very excited to get everything sorted for the wedding. I love weddings. You all know this about me. I was thrilled to be getting to do another wedding for the literal third episode in a row. But then, on the morning of the wedding, Zoe found out that she was pregnant. I didn't think this was possible because I had her on birth control, thanks to the relationship pregnancy overhaul mod, king of all mods, linked in the description. What do you mean she's pregnant? Zoe was not happy about this. Not because she didn't want to have a kid. Like, she actually has being a parent on her bucket list. That popped up on there after her first date with Dawn, I'm pretty sure. But she wasn't ready to have one right now. And so she is stressed. Gavin is far more chill. He's apparently completely open to having a kid, but he's more concerned about how freaked out Zoe seems to be. But they don't have time to worry about this right now, cause it's time for the wedding. They both looked absolutely gorgeous. Honestly, I think they're two of the most beautiful Sims in this whole save file. So good for them getting married to each other. I think this baby is gonna be beautiful. The wedding guests were all being complete nuisances, but like, what else is new? Honestly, it could have gone far worse. Like, at least nobody died this time. It started raining just as they kissed at the end of their vows, and I will leave that open to you guys' interpretation on whether you think that's a good sign or a bad sign for their marriage. Last thing from the wedding. I'm really obsessed with this one clip that I got of Zoe absolutely busting it down on the dance floor and Gavin just admiring from afar. Aren't they so cute? So, back to normal life. They set up a nursery in Gavin's old room. Zoe goes to counseling to try and come to terms with having a baby. It doesn't work, and she starts having a midlife crisis. Gavin nearly dies in a fire, and then it's baby time. They have a baby boy who they named Arlo. And I was pretty excited about this because I feel like we have had a whole lot of baby girls recently. Looking at you, Calientes. Once Arlo is born, Zoe forgets all of her worries and stress about this not being the right time. And we end our week with the three of them starting a new and very, very happy chapter of their lives. Yeah, so let's now do a complete 180, pivoting away from the wholesome family vibes to spend our last week of the video with the Landgraabs. Oh my god, I have been so excited to spend a week with these guys. Like literally since this series started, I have been yearning for some of that Landgraab chaos. Let's get all of our introductions out of the way because there's actually quite a bit to cover. Nancy Landgraab, head of the Landgraab family, is ambitious, materialistic, business savvy, a snob, a quick learner, and she already has the shrewd trait from finishing the fabulously wealthy aspiration. Her new aspiration to replace that is to become a master spellcaster, but we'll get to that in a minute. She's friends with Jay, Anastasia, Rex, and Ren. She's enemies with Zoe, Edgar, Jeffrey, and Johnny, and exes with more people than you'd expect. Nancy has had some weird bug going on with her relationships. I noticed this a couple of episodes ago, and I didn't mention it because it wasn't super relevant, but when I was trying to get Dawn to propose to Nancy in episode 5, I think, it wouldn't let me because Nancy was already married to someone else. I was confused by this because I'd literally just had a divorce from Jeffrey, but turns out she was somehow also married to some complete rando. I divorced the two of them and didn't really think any more of it, but then hopping back into her household this week, I found that she was somehow now married to another complete rando. But once again, I have embraced the chaos and folded these two newbies into our story. So Don Lothario is actually Nancy's fourth husband. Her first was Salvatore. Fun fact about Nancy Landgraab, she actually used to want to be an artist, and she lived in San Myshuno for a while to try and pursue this. I'm not making that up, that's like a canonical part of her Sims 4 specific lore. So I think while she was out here, striking out from the Landgraab mold, she married Salvatore. He was so in love with her, and all he wanted to do was travel the world with her. But Nancy soon left her humble artist phase and returned to her more power-hungry ways. Still in San Myshuno, but now in the Landgraab apartments, again, that's a canonical part of San Myshuno lore, she meets Sammy. He is much more on her wavelength, ambitious and tech-savvy, but I reckon he was almost too similar to her, and she felt threatened by that. So their marriage didn't last either. And then that's when she meets Jeffrey, and we know the rest of the story from there. So we're probably not going to see much of either Sammy or Salvatore, as neither of them are living in Oasis Springs, but I wanted to mention this whole situation anyway, as again, it can be really fun to try and embrace the randomness of the game, even if it's being really buggy and weird. And also fun to try and incorporate some lesser known bits of actual canonical Sims lore. There's some like really weird, interesting niche fun facts you can find if you look at these characters on the wiki. Anyway, these days, Nancy is at the top of the criminal career, and she is obsessed with obtaining master spellcaster status and ensuring that the Landgraab legacy is not just a legacy of money and power, but also one of magic. So her and Dawn are actively trying for a baby. And thanks to Nancy having already finished the fabulously wealthy aspiration, she had enough aspiration points to be able to get herself a potion of youth. This is a reward you can get for your Sims that they can drink, and it will take them back to the start of their current age. It won't age them down. They can't go from like an elder to an adult or a teen to a child. It just resets their progress within that specific life stage. And Nancy was literally about to age up into an elder, and she's not done yet. So her age has been set back to the beginning of the adult life stage, which technically means she's now a few days younger than Dawn, which is like crazy. I think this makes sense though, with the combination of how power hungry she is and also her spellcaster roots. Some of the game's more meta features like this can be tricky to sort of make sense when you're doing a very like story-based gameplay experience, but I think Nancy being a spellcaster and just generally the way that she is gives us a bit of wiggle room with this. Moving on now to Don. He is active, self-assured, romantic, alluring, and has recently changed from being non-committal to being loyal. In a plot twist literally nobody saw coming, Don Lothario genuinely fell in love with Nancy Landgraab and is fully committed to her. It didn't feel right for him to keep having the serial romantic aspiration after this big change, so he now has the super parent aspiration. He's friends with Babs, Dusty, Dina, Jay, Johnny, Paige, and Beckham. He does not get on with Katrina for some reason, and his ex-paramours include Zoe, Parker, Juliana, and Johnny. Johnny Zest, son of Nancy. Don't think about it too hard. It's fine. Don isn't working. Instead, spending his days with the true love of his life, Nancy's hot tub. Last but certainly not least, we have Daniela. Despite being a child at the start of literally this episode we're in right now, Daniela's now a teenager. She's romantically reserved, a music lover, and relatable. And she is working on the teen-specific, goal-oriented aspiration. She's just started high school and is in the cheerleader after-school activity. She's only friends with Priscilla and Malcolm at the moment, but quite a few of the kids around town have now aged up into teens. So my first order of business was to get them all hanging out and getting to know each other. So this new teen friend group now includes Daniela, obviously, Lacey Woodward, Yahir Covington, Bristol Ayala, Gerard Farris, and Scarlett Lamore. I genuinely had to take a minute when I realized that Scarlett was a teenager now. I am unreasonably emotional about this. She was the first baby of the series, being born literally in episode 1, and now she's a teenager. Oh, they grow up so fast. Anyway, after spending some time with her new friends, Daniela went to Jeffrey's apartment to see him and Malcolm for dinner. But before she could even knock on the door, a fire started downstairs. Everyone in the building rushed outside as the fire really picked up in the little barbecue area. And who was there, stuck in the middle of the fire? Malcolm Landgraab. Everybody was freaking out. The fire alarm was blaring, but nobody was able to help. And Malcolm Landgraab died in the fire. We got our first death of the series. How exciting. Okay, no, obviously this is very sad, especially since we're playing with the Landgraabs this episode. But all of the drama of this moment was completely undercut when the Grim Reaper showed up, you know, to do his thing, and then started also freaking out about the fire. I literally had to pause the game and just sit back for a bit because I was laughing so hard at the literal Grim Reaper having to stop what he was doing, reaping the guy who just died in a fire because he too also had to freak out about the fire. Anyway, honestly, I spent so much time giving all of the teenagers makeovers, thinking that this would be like the teen drama episode, but nah, we're doing a funeral now, apparently. It's all very dramatic. Nancy has gone full mourning mode and gives a very long eulogy at the funeral. I imagine talking about how he was the heir to the Landgraab legacy and just like conveniently leaving out the fact that she was actively trying to replace him with a better heir. This is a very sad situation, but it's made even more sad by the fact that Malcolm was seemingly about to go through a redemption arc. I mean, we hadn't seen much of him before, but he had just moved in with Jeffrey. He was making new friends and trying to learn how to be independent. He'd just started flirting with his neighbor. There was potential for him to not end up fully embracing that evil trait of his. He could have been good, but now we'll never know how his story could have ended. Daniela is taking all of this very hard. Like, she was already probably not the most stable of kids. I doubt growing up in that house would make for a particularly normal childhood. But now, she's like the temporary Landgraab heir until she too is replaced. And I think she probably feels really lonely because Nancy is not exactly giving her a lot of support. Instead, Nancy is pouring all of her energy into getting better at spellcasting and trying to get pregnant. The trouble is, her and Dawn are really struggling to make that happen. Not for lack of trying, they still have the steamy dynamic as well. Everyone seems to have the steamy dynamic at the moment. Is this just the way that I'm playing? Okay. Anyway, Nancy is distraught, and she's just swinging wildly between being extremely happy and extremely sad. But none of these moods have anything to do with Malcolm's death. It's like she's just completely blocking it out and focusing on what's in front of her instead. Don is doing his best. He's honestly pretty unaffected by the whole Malcolm thing. He didn't really know the guy, but he's not exactly an expert on trying to help people with their grief. And now he's a stepdad to a devastated teenager. So he's trying to not just be a stepdad, but be a dad who steps up. You like that? I stole that from Dungeons and Daddies. It's a really great podcast. You should listen to it. Anyway. Daniela ends up confiding a lot of her struggles in Scarlett, and the two of them end up becoming best friends, and I'm very emotional about it. I think the two of them are probably spending a lot of time bonding over their really fucked up families. They actually make a really good pair. After spending most of the week trying with no luck, Nancy finally gets pregnant. She is overjoyed, and we're just not gonna think about how this is really probably not the best way for her to be coping with the death of her son. It's fine. Everything's fine. Don't worry about it. Oh my god. Johnny Zest started randomly sending Dawn flirty texts again. Sir, this is inappropriate. Dawn is married to your mother. Anyways. That's really the only interesting thing that happened during Nancy's pregnancy. We really sort of front-loaded all of the drama this week. So at the end of the week, Nancy gives birth to a baby girl named Ava. Now, we won't know whether Ava is a spellcaster until she ages up to an infant. So I guess we'll have to wait and find out in the next episode whether the Landgraab spellcaster heir has actually been secured. But I have a feeling there is far more drama to come in this whole situation. Because right as I was gearing up to save and quit, Nancy developed a midlife crisis. Specifically, the relationship-related one. Nancy wants a divorce. But I don't want that to be the note that we're leaving things on today. So here's a few quick things that happened in the background of all of the drama these 3 weeks. Dusty and Babs were out for dinner with Dahlia. At the same time, Paige and Dina were out for dinner with Esme. Do you think these guys know that they can bring more than one child out for dinner with them? They both have more than one kid. Anyway, when Jeffrey was throwing his dinner party, he hired a caterer, and it ended up being Mitchell, of all people. When Jeffrey and Carmen were out on their fancy dinner date, Don Lothario was just standing behind them the whole time for some reason. Not long after Zoe found out she was pregnant, Paige randomly popped over for a visit. And I like to think that this was Paige giving her some motherhood advice, as Paige now has 3 children of her own. And finally, whilst Daniela was out with her friends, Jay Huntington III sat down with them, clearly not content with being left out of this episode. And Scarlett was not happy about it. Rightly so, I feel. But that's all I've got for you today. Thank you so much for watching. And a very special thank you to my channel members, whose lovely support allows videos like this to exist in the first place. If you're keen to support me by becoming a channel member, you'll also get access to sneak peeks about upcoming videos, polls on which household I play next, and the brand new Lani.exe Discord server. I've had so much fun chatting with my lovely existing members, and it would bring me endless joy to see even more of you in there too. If you have a burning desire for me to play a specific household next, leave a comment letting me know who. Usually we're all pretty much on the same wavelength of who I should play, but I have been surprised by your suggestions sometimes. It's really cool to see who you guys gravitate towards. I promise we'll get to Edgar eventually, or at least some of his descendants if we don't get a chance to hang out with him directly. We'll get there one day. Last thing, if you're someone who just watches my Sims videos, I highly recommend checking out the new series I've just started called Azeroth's Next Top Model. In it, I'm basically just playing dress up in World of Warcraft, making super cute outfits out of audience suggested themes. And I reckon a lot of you Sims fans would really enjoy it, even if you're not actually interested in World of Warcraft itself. Okay, that's all. Hope you'll have a lovely day. Bye! Oh, every time I do that, I feel like my ring's gonna fly off. Goodbye.